So let's dive into a question that sounds like it's straight out of a fantasy novel. Can we actually talk to plants? We're going to get into the science of it and explore if a real, meaningful connection with the plant world is even possible.
But let's start with this one big idea. What if plants have been talking this whole time, but we've just been listening completely wrong? Honestly, this single shift in perspective could change absolutely everything. All right, so first up, the dream of dialogue. We're going to start with that universal, almost magical fantasy of having a real conversation with nature. It's a dream a lot of us have had, right? But what does it actually look like when we get real about it?
You know the fantasy, right? Leaning up against a wise old oak tree and just having a chat. But the reality? Oh, the reality is so much cooler. It's this buzzing, constant, complex world of signals, an exchange of information happening all around us, not in words, but in the language of life itself.
And you know what's so exciting? Science is finally catching up to this idea. We're shifting away from seeing plants as just these passive green decorations and starting to recognize them as active, communicating beings that are constantly sensing and responding to their world. Okay, so let's bring this all down to earth. To really get this, we have to move past the fantasy and look at what's actually going on at a biological level. How do plants really talk? So how are they signaling? Well, it's not just one thing, it's multi-layered. They use chemical signals, these airborne alerts, to warn their neighbors about pests. They even make these ultrasonic clicks when they're stressed out. And internally, they've got electrical signals that look a lot like our own nerve impulses, and even pressure waves moving through their systems. It's not a simple language. It's a whole symphony of signals. Now, as we get into this, we have to be really, really careful about one thing. There's this huge scientific concept called anthropomorphism. Basically, it's our habit of slapping human traits, like emotions or intentions or our kind of language, onto things that aren't human. And it's a real trap that can keep us from seeing what's actually there. So, just to be super clear, we are not talking about language with grammar and verbs like we use. The real breakthrough here isn't about finding a plant that can speak English. The real strength is in learning how to listen without demanding a human-like reply. And that idea, well, that brings us to the real heart of this whole thing. If it's not about translating plant speak, then how in the world do we connect? Turns out we need a deeper way to listen.
And this is the question that changes everything. If we stop trying to be translators, what's our role? Well, the answer isn't in our ears or even in our brains. It's inside our own bodies.
The doorway is a biological superpower you already have. It's called interoception. It's your sense of your body's own internal state, your heartbeat, your breath, your temperature, all those tiny microsignals. It's the channel for feeling, not just thinking.
And here's a really cool way to think about it. Because plants are literally rooted to one spot, they have to be masters of sensing their internal state. You could say they're interoceptive specialists. Humans, on the other hand, we evolved to be mobile, to focus on the outside world. And because of that, a lot of us have become interoceptive amateurs, kind of disconnected from our own internal signals. This quote just nails it. It's not about getting plants to be our chat partners. It's about training us, training humans, to feel what's going on instead of just projecting our own ideas on everything. The work is internal.
So, you might be asking, okay, how do I actually do this? Well, it's a practice, a kind of attunement. It all starts with slowing your own system way down. Just quiet your mind, quiet your body. Then, you tune your awareness into the plant's presence. Now, here's the most important part. You start to notice the shifts inside your own body, what's happening with your breath, your pulse. Then, from that quiet receptive state, you can reflect on what you're perceiving.
So where does all this lead? Well, once you start this personal practice, it opens up a door to something way bigger. We're talking about the next level of magic, a new kind of collective connection.
But first, we got to take a step back and just appreciate the baseline magic that we take for granted every single day. The fact that a tree can turn air into solid wood or sunlight into life, that's already an incredible miracle happening right in front of us.
We are already in a deep, intimate dialogue, whether we realize it or not. We breathe out carbon dioxide, they breathe it in. We breathe in the oxygen they give us. They turn sunlight into the food we eat, into the very structures of our world. We're not trying to create some new connection. We're just waking up to the profound one that's already here. And this right here is where things get really, really interesting. Once you, as an individual, learn to listen in this new way, the next step is to see what happens when we do it together. We can move from a personal practice to a massive collective experiment. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical thing. There's actual research that suggests this connection can be measured. For instance, the HeartMath Institute has done some incredible work exploring this very possibility.
So their experiments found that when groups of people focused positive emotions on a particular tree, the tree's own electrical signals showed a measurable response, a physical effect. Our collective intention can have a real, physical influence on the plant world. How wild is that? Which, of course, brings us to this final, huge, mind-bending question. If just a small group can create a measurable effect, what could we create if 1 million of us started listening in this deep way, all together? What new kind of intelligence, what new kind of co-creation could we possibly unlock? That's not just a new way to see nature. It might just be a whole new way to be human.